To this afternoon's town board meeting, Monday, July 8th, 2024. I'd like to begin with a pledge of allegiance, if you would please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With that, I would ask our town clerk to Okay, with that, I would ask our town clerk to please call the roll.
Okay. Supervisor Copa.
Here.
Deputy Supervisor Lavin.
Present.
Councilmember Berger. Councilmember Zucala.
Here.
And Councilmember Marinucci.
Okay, the first item on our agenda is the approval of minutes from Monday, June 24th, 2024. A motion to adopt those as they appeared.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We have a single public hearing on the agenda this evening. It's an appeal of the Historic Preservation Commission decision on 400 Mill Street. I'm going to motion to open the public hearing at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'd ask the petitioner to please come forward. I do want to remind everybody, this town board doesn't take action on land use items the first night of the public hearing or first day of the public hearing. So we'll probably be setting a decision date for the 22nd for this particular project.
This isn't land use, though.
There's no actionable item.
Okay,
Okay.
but it's
Please
still
proceed.
not land use.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Thomas Lyons. I'm here from the law firm of Duke Holzman on behalf of the petitioners. The ownership at the St. Mary's property located at 400 Mill Street, just about 1.5 miles that direction from where we're currently standing. We are here today on an appeal from the Historic Preservation Commission's determination on the April 8th meeting, the resolution dated April 19th, which denied our application for a certificate of appropriateness with respect to a proposed project, which is to replace the synthetic slate roof that is currently on that structure with a synthetic slate roof manufactured by EcoStar locally in Holland, New York. Now, real quick, just by way of background, the St. Mary's property for at least the last 20 years has been operated as a senior affordable living complex offering 100 units for senior affordable living in the town of Amherst to its residents. And what we are proposing here today is that the board should reverse the decision of the Historic Preservation Commission and allow us to move forward with this project because the Historic Preservation Commission made 2 errors in its determination. First, it didn't base any findings of fact on anything supported by the record. And second, because it applied a standard that is not the correct standard under the town code, which was recently amended by this board to be effective as of December 18th of 2023. First, with regard to the findings that were actually made by the Historic Preservation Commission, the only finding that actually made its way into the resolution was, and I quote, "The commission finds that the EcoStar synthetic slate product dramatically changed the visual and aesthetic effects of the roof to this local landmark." The reason why we say that that is not supported, and quite to the contrary, is actually openly contradicted by the record that is before this board, is because immediately prior to going into an executive session, the Historic Preservation Commission, 3 members themselves openly acknowledged that this product looks similar, or if not the same, and has been successfully used on numerous other historical landmarks across the country. And as soon as I'm finished speaking, while still within our time, I will turn it over to Nicholas Kraus from the Heritage Consulting Group, who will provide a quick presentation to you about a number of the properties, including several that we've already previously discussed and others that have used this product very successfully with National Park Service approval under the actual standards that the National Park Service applies. And that brings me to point number 2. The second problem was once the Historic Preservation Commission came out of their executive session and simply made the statement that it changes the appearance, despite their comments to the contrary, what they ultimately then did is applied an 8-part threshold test that was based on one of the commission members' interpretation of some guidance from the National Park Service. The problem is the way that test was actually employed by the Historic Preservation Commission, it created an insurmountable threshold that quite frankly would prevent the actual ability to use any replacement product on a historic building. As by way of quick illustration, in addition to synthetic slate materials that have been repeatedly used on historic buildings, we're talking about things such as aluminum windows in place of old wood windows and other materials that are commonly in practice on historic buildings across the country, let alone here in Erie County and even within town of Williamsville and Amherst. That threshold test was applied as strictly as it could have been, such that if you fail a single standard under 8-part test, they considered it a failure. And what it was is they applied it with the misunderstanding that their structure and the code to be applied was, well, you pass this 8-part test or realistically you don't, and that's why we have the hardship application process. And quite simply, that's not the way that it's applied. It's not the way it's applied by state historic preservation offices, it's not the way it's actually applied by the National Park Service, and it's not the way it's applied by historic preservation commissions all across the country, let alone in New York State. What ultimately is the test, and this town board passed the newly enacted statute as of December 18th, 2023, and listed 5 factors. And quite simply, those 5 factors ask, in 5 slightly different ways, one simple question. Does the proposed material look similar? If the answer is yes, if it maintains the historic aesthetic appearance of the building, then the town code language that was employed in section 121-7 and 121-8 is not discretionary. It speaks in terms of a certificate of appropriateness shall be issued if that test is met. And under that standard, if that standard is actually applied, we meet this test all day. And the reason I say that is what we have here today is we have a sample that I can pass to the board members if you'd like of actual slate in its virgin format and the synthetic slate that we are proposing to use. In the rear of the room, approximately, and I'm going to be a best guess here, but it's approximately 40 feet from where the board members are sitting, is roughly the same distance that the slate roof that's currently on the building is going to be at any point viewable. Myself, I've seen that building. Our historic preservation expert has seen that building repeatedly, and members of the public that we have here are residents of that property and have seen that every day that they live there. And what they will all say, and what you can see with your naked eye, is that this building, the most closely that you will see that roof is from 40 feet away and down. You're not looking at it head on as you might be looking at it here. And I submit to you, as the Historic Preservation Commission members acknowledged, as everyone here can acknowledge, that synthetic slate product mirrors the look of actual slate when it is installed, and it exists for that exact purpose. So that is why we are proposing to use that product on this building to maintain the historic aesthetic of the building, which is what that product is designed for, and also to protect this historic landmark and make it more safe than it currently is, and frankly, it would be even if we were to install real slate. So what I will now turn over to is Mr. Kraus. Mr. Kraus is from the Heritage Foundation, and Mr. Kraus can speak to you about other buildings, especially a couple of very historic landmarks here in Erie County that have used this product with success, as again, the commission itself acknowledged.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons, and thank you, board, for your time this afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of you today. And just to give a quick background on myself and the company Heritage Consulting Group, my name is Nick Kraus. I'm the Vice President of Heritage Consulting Group. We are a leading historic preservation consulting firm. We specialize in federal and state historic tax credit projects. And the most important thing to know about that is all those projects that are approved, the projects that you see that have been rehabilitated, historic warehouses, things like that, all the work on those projects has to meet the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. That's the key historic preservation standard that's used throughout the country as it is here. And that's what we're talking about today. We've been around since 1982 and have completed thousands of historic tax credit projects. Our day-to-day is working with review entities interpreting the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation. All staff at our firm meets the Secretary of the Interior's professional qualification standards under 36 CFR 61. Again, I believe the most important thing to discuss quickly here is that the town code requires any proposed work to meet the standards for rehabilitation. The Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation are defined as the act or process of making possible a compatible use for a property through repair, alterations, and additions. These standards do not require preservation or restoration. In fact, the Secretary of the Interior has preservation standards and restoration standards. Neither of those are applied here. We are strictly talking about the rehabilitation standards. And specifically to that, the rehab standards permit change in replacement materials when they are a good aesthetic match, which I believe as we're talking about here, and Mr. Ritter pointed out, we have a good match. I think also important to show on the photo here, I'm sure all of you know it from being out at the site. This is a great entry. It was a beautiful day out there taking this photo. This is the main entry from Mill Street. And as you can see, you can barely see the building from the public right-of-way. This is how the building was intended to be viewed by the public. The main elevation of the building doesn't face the street, and the building set back a couple of hundred feet from the public right-of-way. As far as the use of synthetic slate, we can all agree, and it was agreed upon in the commission meeting, that the 100-year-old slate roof currently is in poor condition, and it was agreed that it does need to be replaced. I think it's important to understand we're not talking about that. In the resolution, as Mr. Lyons had talked about, the resolution indicated that the proposed synthetic slate did not match the historic. Again, I think the proof is in the sample that we have here today. That's not the case. There was also a long discussion about, as Mr. Lyons talked about, the 8-part test, that an 8-part test must be applied in order to utilize substitute materials in order to meet the Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation. However, this is not and has never been a requirement of the National Park Service, who's the bearer of the standards and the interpreter of the standards, whom we work with every day. In fact, Brian Gokin, who's the head of the TPS, National Park Service, he administers the entire historic tax credit program, would tell you if he was here today, everything is based on facts and circumstances. In fact, the Secretary of the Interior's rehab has no tests. Everything is based on facts and circumstances. The use of substitute materials has become the standard and accepted practice in the historic tax credit program because the standards are applied pragmatically and in a flexible, aesthetic-focused manner. There was a recent preservation brief 16, that was issued. There was a lot of discussion at the commission meeting about that. I think some of the discussion was in error based on our professional opinion dealing with this every day. There's nothing in Brief 16 that states or even suggests that 8 circumstances are required to be applied as a strict test in order to meet the criteria of using substitute material. Quite to the contrary, Brief number 16 actually discussed criteria which must be met, and one of those, and the number 1, is compatible in appearance. Again, we believe the proposed EcoStar synthetic slate material meets that test. Again, the use of these substitute materials is a typical and standard treatment, one that we use on a daily basis on historic tax credit projects here and throughout the country. The interpretation, as indicated on this slide, that the commission utilized is simply not how it's implemented by the National Park Service and other review bodies. There is no 8-part test that must be satisfied to warrant the use of substitute materials. If it was, we would never have substitute materials used. There would not be a preservation brief 16 that's about 50 pages long talking about the substitute materials you can use. Specifically to that, again, in our professional work, nearly every project we work on has substitute exterior materials. You can go look at any project around that's been converted. Again, historic warehouses, most of those would have had wood windows, steel windows, predominantly now have aluminum windows. The products were developed for this purpose, same as what we have here today. And so going on from there, I think it's important really to show comps of these materials that have been used, these slate materials that have been used in places where we're replacing original slate, damaged slate with synthetic slate. So the first and most important one I want to point out here, I'm sure everyone knows it, Theodore Roosevelt Inaugural Historical Site, downtown. It's owned and operated by the National Park Service. It's a National Historic Site, and obviously a very important to our country. And it has EchoStar, the same product we're proposing today, was approved for use on a National Park Service owned and operated building by the National Park Service. Another comp we have here is the Genesee County Courthouse in Batavia. As you can see here, the photos in the building, it's a very prominent building in Batavia. It's very visible. It's built right up to the street line. Historically important, visually important. As you can see on this slide here, in 2014, the Batavia Historic Preservation Commission approved a similar slate. It was a Da Vinci slate. It's a comp to EchoStar. It's basically Ford and Chevy. It's the same thing, different producers. The color and products were also approved for replacement by the New York State Historic Preservation Office. So we had 2 levels of review there that indicated that this product meets the standards. Here's another comp. I think this one is even more similar to what we have at St. Mary's, though this building, this is in Kings Park, New York. It's a school. It's closer to the street, so the sight lines of this are greater. It was obviously a public school, still is a public school. And as you can see on the slide, the New York SHPO approved the replacement of the roof, again, with a comp product to the EchoStar. And I think, as you can see, it turned out very well. It's a very good match. And then one more here that we have. This is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is Our Lady of Lourdes Church. This used the EchoStar product. And here you can see that the City of Philadelphia Historical Commission, which is a very rigorous commission, approved replacement with the EchoStar synthetic slate. And then finally, we have a couple more comps here. These are all EchoStar products. The top left is 257 Liberty Street in Newburgh, New York. This was a historic tax credit project fully approved by the State Historic Preservation Office and National Park Service. And the others, as you can see, are throughout the state and the country, also EchoStar products akin to what we're proposing today. And I think, as you can see from the photos, are fantastic matches. I think it'd be hard to tell that it's not a historic slate.
Good afternoon. Can all the seniors hear me? All right, so my name is Tom Granville. I'm a principal at Whitney Capital Company, and I've been involved with the St. Mary's property since 2002 when we started negotiating with the town. We ultimately bought the property in 2003. We renovated it from 2003 to 2004. We've committed to maintaining and manage a wonderful senior affordable housing community that we were able to develop with the help of the town. I'm partners in this facility with Skip Serio, who's here today, and Gary Munson. We're very proud of this property. I grew up here. I went to school here. I have many, many relatives still in town, and we have close ties to the Amherst community. and it's one of the better properties we've ever developed, and we've won awards at the New York State Affordable Housing Association for the development of this community. Again, as I said, it's senior affordable housing, so the rents are restricted. We have limited funds, and therefore we have to basically spend those resources economically. And one of the things that we want to do is propose a synthetic slate product, which will help us preserve resources for other areas of the building. Many of the senior residents of St. Mary's are here today. Any of the residents are here, if they could raise their hands. Again, we've been working with the residents. Real estate is a team effort, and part of the team is the residents who pay the rent, our on-site management team, the ownership group, our consultants who are here, and the town. We've had a great relationship with the town since we've owned this building. We would urge you to vote yes. I was going to say tonight, until I heard earlier comments, that we're going to defer, but I would encourage you to vote yes sooner rather than later, so we can address the maintenance needs of this roof, which needs replacement. And again, I thank you for your time and understanding. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer those. I know there's a public hearing section that's coming up next.
So, ladies and gentlemen of the board, I just have one final comment really quickly. One of the reasons why we were advocating until Mr. Culpa, you mentioned that you would be deferring the decision date, why we were advocating for the soonest we could have you vote and hopefully approve our certificate of appropriateness application is because we've heard from the same roofer that we've had somewhat on, I'll call it standby, that if we can get this approval, we can get this project started this year. And so our hope is that if you can vote to approve that certificate of appropriateness, because the materials look similar, that we can begin this, as Mr. Granville said, and maintain this property and keep its historic aesthetic. Pending any questions, thank you very much.
So first, stay there. So I'm going to let the board have an opportunity for some questions before we open up to the public. So I had a couple questions. The first question I was going to ask is, what is the availability of product for this construction season, and what is the availability for the contractor to do the work this construction season, or are we going through a winter without?
So our contractor has said that if we can get the approvals in relatively short order here, that he could begin in the fall. So the hope would be that the new roof would be on before we get through a winter season.
And that's for the synthetic slate?
Correct. That's for the synthetic slate that we're proposing to use.
So the next question I had is, I understand obviously that the reason petitioner is looking at the synthetic slate as opposed to the slate is born out of cost. Obviously, it's cost driven on an affordable project. You understand. Is there, my understanding is that the apartments, I don't remember exactly what year they're in, that there is always an eligibility issue in terms of whether or not the apartment owner is going to keep the affordable piece or component on the apartment units themselves. Is there a commitment from the owner to keep these as affordable?
I'll let Mr. Granville speak to that as he's part of the ownership structure.
We have a 30-year regulatory agreement with the New York State Housing Finance Agency, which is now HCR. So there's a regulatory that dictates the affordability components.
What year are you in now?
I need to do some math in my head. I believe that we're in year 20, approximately.
So you've got a, what, 100-year-old product on the roof, the slate itself, at the time of when you hit the 30-year right now, right? The existing product will be just over 100. So what's the synthetic lifespan?
So the synthetic lifespan has been used, and I'll defer a little bit to Mr. Kraus on this, but this product has been used by across the country on various national landmarks as long back as at least 30 years from now. So it's been demonstrated to have a lifespan of a minimum of 30 years so far, and it continues to ongo. The product is obviously also under, we have a warranty commitment for it of a minimum of 50 years for this product. So again, that's not to say that the lifespan is only 50 years, but the manufacturer is willing to stand behind it for that long at least.
So you want to put a 50-year synthetic roof on at a favorable cost savings, and you're in year 20 of 30. And so I guess what I'm looking for is, you know, is the ownership group willing to commit to the affordability period to stretch to the warranty period for roof?
I think you're mixing apples and oranges in that there's a statute that allows us to put the synthetic slate on, and it shouldn't have anything to do with the affordability component with respect to the property.
Okay, thanks. That's it for me. Other board members have questions? Go ahead.
I know your answers have danced around this, so I'd just like a solid comment. What is the cost difference between replacing it with a regular slate roof versus your product, please?
Absolutely. So if you look at Exhibit 4 to our written submission, specifically if you look at page it's page 17 of my firm's letter, top left corner under Exhibit tab 4. The price that was quoted initially, and this was, mind you, several years ago, the initial price for the original slate material to be installed would have been $3,085,000 versus the proposal that from the contractor who is still willing to commit to that and do that this year. The initial proposal was $1,675,000. So it's almost half.
And the other factor to calculate in that analysis is the synthetic slate. The contractor is willing to hold their price basically until the fall. With the slate prices, there's no commitment to hold any prices, so there would be some escalation with respect to that dollar amount. And then the other factor on the slate side is there's limited availability of labor and resources to install a slate product, so it would be a longer period of time, so there's more risk of a construction cost escalation. So what Tom had mentioned is basically the differential between our old slate price and our new synthetic slate price, but it's very likely that that gap will increase over time.
So Mr. Zuccalla, all right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the board at this point? If not, I'm gonna open it up to speakers. So some people did sign in. We don't usually require sign-ins for public hearings, but since there are so many people who've signed in, I'm going to just start with the two sign-in sheets that I have in front of me. So Charles Ritter, if you would, please come forward. One of the attorneys on behalf of the group, I just signed in. Okay. Okay, Tom Lyons, so obviously you've already presented. I did not sign. Okay. Dorothy Tudor.
Okay. Thank you to the board for letting me speak on behalf of my home at St. Mary's Apartments. I'm Dorothy Tudor, and I reside in apartment 202 at St. Mary's. I was at the meeting in April and listened to both sides. I'm just an average person, and I walked around St. Mary's and have been hard-pressed to find a spot on the ground where anyone could be close enough to tell the difference between the manufactured slate and the actual slate, so I can support the manufactured slate. I believe that the board takes pride in providing affordable housing for seniors in the town of Amherst. That being said, any company taking on the responsibility of providing affordable housing will be limited as to what they can charge the residents. I feel it is unfair to ask them to spend 3 times the money necessary when an alternative is an option. With the cost of everything rising, this certainly makes a common sense argument for you to say yes to the manufactured slate. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there a sister, Judy? Is that the SR? Okay, thank you. Yeah, can you say your last name? So
Weisswanger.
Weisswanger?
Weisswanger, yeah.
Thank you.
I live in apartment 206 at St. Mary's Apartment, and I've lived there for the past 4 years. However, I actually entered the convent at 400 Mill Street in 1967, and lived there for many, many years. One of the ministries of the sisters was to house the elderly and the poor at 400 Mill Street. I am grateful for the owners and the board for continuing our ministry here in the town of in Amherst and Williamsville. The building is very important to me because I did enter then and live there. I support the use of the synthetic slate to replace the existing slate roof, which is in need of dire replacement. If it is not replaced, there will be more damage to the inside of the building, which we have experienced and our maintenance men have tried to keep up. Due to the falling slate, we no longer can go into the courtyards. Residents gathered there and it was a safe place for us. I believe the proposed synthetic slate looks like the original. Besides, the original has been falling off and was in repair before we sold it. And we sold it to the state to keep the green space. That's why. If any board member or a loved one of yours lived at St. Mary's Apartments, you would want a roof to be replaced for the safety of the residents as soon as possible and at a reasonable cost. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Okay, Diane Foster.
I live at St. Mary's. I did some figures with my calculator, and I think it would cost almost $1 million to replace the tiles with the real things. I'm not a math whiz. My dad told me not to work in a bank, but you do have math whizzes here, and I don't think we have that kind of money. Thank you.
Thank you. Sister Barbara Whalen.
Good afternoon. My name is Sister Barbara Whalen. I entered the community in 1963 at St. Mary of the Angels, and I lived there for 7 years. I have since returned since 2021. I just wanted to talk about the fact that that building, for me, is home. In 1927, our Reverend Mother asked the bishop to have that building erected, and he said no. She went back to the contractors and told them what the bishop said, and the bishop said to her, go back to the bishop. The contractor said to her, go back to the bishop and tell him that the building will be erected as designed. And she went ahead and did as follows. The building was then put together. She wanted to move in the sisters as well as the elderly, and she couldn't get it approved for, safety for them, inspected. So she went again to the board and she said, my sisters and the residents will be moving in on this day, and they did get it inspected. I propose that we move ahead on the imitation slate. It is my hope and the hope of many of the residents that are here today that the board votes yes, and we can move ahead so that we have a home and a roof over our head. Thank you.
Genevieve Overholt. Did I get that close?
Good afternoon. I'm a resident of St. Mary's on 400 Mill Street, and it is a beautiful place. And I'm fairly new there, and the history behind it, as I'm learning, is overwhelming. I just don't know. History is so important. And I think that a new roof, the synthetic one, would be the way to go. It would help keep people, the elderly, in their homes and not disrupt their lives. Because there's many of them who have nobody, and we have become a family, and that's important to us. Everybody knows, so
Oh,
I'd ask.
thank you. Catherine, is it Lupi?
Good afternoon. My name is Catherine Lupi. I've been a resident at St. Mary's since 2021. There have been major changes in the economy since I moved there. I've experienced sticker shock at the grocery store. Regular gas has gone from $1.80 per gallon to $3.60 currently. The high fuel costs don't only affect personal travel. Products from clothing to home goods go up in price because all products and supplies need to be transported. Services, including vehicle repair and insurance services, have spiked. Supply chain issues have driven up demand for items like building supplies, and it goes on. The reason I'm bringing up economic matters is because what happens in the economy has a big impact on my budget. Many seniors on fixed incomes are experiencing the same challenges as me. The amount we pay for housing takes a big chunk of our income. I, along with other residents at St. Mary's recently, had a significant rent increase. This eats away at savings for emergencies and retirement. I urge the town board to approve the installation of the synthetic slate roof. Thank you for listening today.
Tori Allen?
I've been a resident for
Sorry, you gotta use the mic.
This is the newest edition. I've been a resident for going on 8 years. I've experienced lots of leaks. My father is a contractor, so he can come over and actually go in my apartment and fix some of them himself, but the cracks get bigger, longer, wider. We really, really need this. The synthetic, like everybody's been telling y'all, is probably better than the slate, and it lasts probably twice as long. So we hope that you'll work with us, and thanks for listening to us, and we hope we don't have to come back.
Thanks. Susan Blum?
Thank you for listening. I'm Susan Blum. I live at 195 Old Lime Drive, right in, well, it's a Williamsville mailing address, but I'm technically Amherst, I guess. But that confuses everybody. So thank you for allowing me to speak. I, too, am in favor of the synthetic roof. My mom lives at St. Mary's. She's been there for a number of years. And her life has changed because of the delay of this project. And I'm just asking that you consider the fact that you currently have an owner who is willing to make improvements on this property, not only with this roof, but once the roof is done, they'll be doing other work inside as well, which is in need because of the condition of the roof. It's, as Tori mentioned, it's already been leaking. I'm wondering if the board possibly has, not the board, but maybe the board and the, since there's common ownership in a way between the board and the Historic Preservation Committee, if it's possible that some of the members are looking to do something else with this property in the future, and they're actually desiring that it might fall into disrepair and that Whitney walks away from the property. I wonder if there's even parties from the county that are desiring this same brainstorm. I just ask respectfully, I don't believe either that this is a land use issue, and I think that if the board really desired to help this building and get this done this year, that you would please consider making that vote. I think that you have the power to decide to vote on it this evening, and I think that you'd make a lot of people very, very happy if you would do so. Please save St. Mary's now. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. E.J. Flammer.
Hi, I'm E.J. Flammer. I live at 353 Brantwood Road in Amherst. And I think it's great, number one, that we have affordable housing in our community. And I think it's wonderful that we have a contractor that's willing to invest and do things in our community. And you guys aren't, out challenging them to do these types of things. They want to be proactive about what they want to do. Looking at the product that's available here today, I think it makes all the sense in the world. I spent a lot of time in the state park that's right there, relaxing and looking up, and look at all the examples you're seeing in these slides too. There should be no reason that this isn't approved, and you guys push this forward immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Clough.
Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Clough. I live at 70 Haymarket Square, and I think it's great that St. Mary's provides affordable senior housing for seniors in the town of Amherst. I often walk my dog at the adjacent state park and admire the St. Mary's building, but one thing I don't notice is the roof, since it's 4 stories high. In addition, I've looked at the synthetic slate sample proposed, and I think it looks as good, if not better, than the actual slate. The seniors at St. Mary's, many of them retired nuns who originally lived there when it was a convent, deserve a new roof. And I think the synthetic slate is a product that makes sense at this time. I urge you to vote yes tonight for the installation of a synthetic slate roof at St. Mary's Apartments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ann Hutchinson.
Hi, good afternoon. My name's Ann Hutchinson, and I've been a resident of St. Mary's for about 5 years and appreciate living there very much. My degree is in design and drafting, and in my career days, that's what I did. So I do know a lot about synthetic and natural materials. It was a course of study, and there's a reason that nowadays we are using more synthetics. They're stronger, they're more resilient, and they last a lot longer. I was recently to Asheville, North Carolina, and did a tour of the Biltmore estate, and there's a lot of portions of the Biltmore that are using synthetic products, including the decks and the track system that goes around the walkways. It's superior to wood. Wood splinters and it warps, and just like slate will crack when heavy ice falls on it, this stuff is more resilient, and I wholeheartedly support the synthetic slate. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody have anything further? Oh, Jane, sorry.
Jane Cox, Harlem Road. This is a regular meeting of the town board at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Town board meetings go in July and August sometimes at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and sometimes at night. But they generally do not hold public hearings at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because it's difficult for working people to attend the public hearings. Everybody should have a chance to speak at a public hearing. So I'm urging the board, I know you don't want to drag this out any longer than you have to, but if you adjourn the meeting today, it would give people a chance, if they still want to come and speak on this issue, to come to the next evening meeting and address it before you vote. Thank you.
Thanks, Shane. Okay.
Shelley Schatz, Amherst. Off of what Jane just said, I think point of clarification then, Brian, because you made a comment, you're going to close it today, and usually
No, I
when you...
said if we close it.
Okay, because I just want to be sure, because sometimes when you close it, then there's no speech the next time that anybody can talk.
Understood.
That people need to know that. Okay, I heard it from the back. St. Mary's of the Angels has been here, obviously you've heard. Thanks, Lori. St. Mary's of the Angels has been here a very long time. I spent most of my childhood here when we moved here after my dad passed away. The nuns are amazing people, and it has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with who they are in their hearts. They are helpful. When you walk on that parcel, that's why I think we put the Veterans Canal Park over, the Veterans Memorial over there, because of what it stands for. All right? The fact when they went and sold that Skip Serio, I see you, hi. When we bought it, the town, I helped carry those pews out of there as a council member because of what it meant. My concern is this. The buildings that were sold to the town are now, I think there's apartments over there. Are those owned by who? Who bought those properties and who developed those apartments over, right by the house? Is it Huntress?
There's the old Park Creek area, and then the apartments over there are associated. Those are Aquest parks.
Okay, yes, Aquest, okay. So those comments I have received, which I mentioned to Angela. And people are also looking behind the other mother house over off of Ree Street, which the nuns are no longer there. And that's sold to a developer, I would assume. And there's apparently other buildings going back there. The fear is, the plan is, that if he doesn't get the roof, and he's not going to spend any money, it's going to end up like a Westwood. And then it's going to end up being sold and turned into affordable housing, which might be condos. That parcel is history, and it has value. And it's not like Westwood where you say they're going to come and travel it. They're not. They're coming for peace. There's no reason why, in my mind, that unless the town wants to pay the difference, because we pay the difference for everything else, for every other organization, and I'm not giving you a criticism, I'm giving you what I've heard, then give the difference if you have to have the roof. But to not pass this and keep the history of that part of Williamsville, okay? We don't do it in other parts, and that part of Williamsville, I think is a disservice for the town and to the history of it, and to what it means to be a good neighbor, no matter who you are or where you come from or what you believe in, because that is sacred ground for everyone to go and feel welcomed. And it goes into the park, and it's not going to stay a park, but this should be. When you had the meeting here with Sean Ryan, which I came to, the comment of stakeholders, he talked about, it's about the stakeholders of why they want to do what they want to do. This piece of land is about the stakeholders of the history of the town, and to wait, to me, is foolish and inconsiderate, because, Brian, you even said it at that meeting, our seniors, once they move out of their home and they find a place, don't disturb them. Let it be their home till the end, because many people, seniors, don't have family that will take care of them because they don't live here.
So, Shelley, Go ahead, please.
Hello, my name is...
Yep. Name and address, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Andrea Waro. I live at 26 Old Spring Lane. My mother-in-law, the grandmother of my child, lives at St. Mary's. The reason why she lives at St. Mary's is because my father-in-law died of COVID in 2021. She moved from Rochester, and we looked for housing for her. St. Mary's was a perfect option. She loves it there, the community, the people, the nuns, they're all her friends. And it's created a very special place in her heart. And my son loves going there, enjoying the elevator rides up, visiting the parks. It's a very special place. And I think at this point, understanding that the cost of a roof, it's important to keep it historic. I think the people that own it could probably afford a $2 million roof, but at the end of the day, it doesn't make any sense to spend more money on something that no one's going to be able to visually see. And like other people have stated, once the roof is done, carpets can get fixed up because they're not going to get ruined by the water. Cracks will be able to get sealed up because they're not going to get ruined by the water from the leaks. And most importantly, the people, the actual human component of what St. Mary's is and what it means to have affordable housing for our seniors is what I think we need to look at, that we're creating an incredible space in Williamsville that maybe doesn't have the most affordable housing so people can still be close to their families and people they love and their doctors. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Dave Howard, 194 Rycroft Boulevard. I guess I have no opinion. It looks great, the stuff. Is it made out of plastic? Is that the composite? When we're saying composite, it's a...
Yeah, so go ahead, finish your questions,
Okay.
and then we'll get them
So,
answered.
I mean, I'm just trying to find out if it's composite or if it, like plastics, or if is it fiberglass type base? And then is there a temperature range where, I mean, we're talking a roof here, so what is the range of temperature where this is, I guess the upper limit, I guess I'm looking for?
Okay.
But that's just the information I would like to know, I mean, okay?
Thank you. Okay, there is somebody from the roofing company. Can I have him down just? No, okay.
This is Gary Brown, our roof consultant. So he's not from the roofing company, the roofing contractor. He will be basically overseeing and supervising the roofing contractor we ultimately hire. So Gary's a roofing expert, just for clarification.
Can you answer regarding the composition of the product, and then there was a question about temperature range and heat tolerance?
The EcoStar product is recycled rubber and plastics. So I believe it's like made up of 70% recycled materials, which makes it an even greater product. As far as heat resistance, this product is designed to be used all over the country. So the heat part is not an issue.
Thank you.
Mr. Kaufman, if I may just direct the board members for exhibit purposes. Part of our record that's currently before you, Exhibit 4 was our complete submission to the Historic Preservation Commission. In that Exhibit 4, there is itself Exhibit 4, which is a product brochure from EcoStar, which actually directly addresses all of these points, as well as the fire safety rating, which meets all of the standards and codes required as well.
Thank you.
Good evening, town board members. My name is Don Smith, North Long. I have been living at my current location for approximately 45 years, which is the back door into Amherst State Park, as you well know. I have been over there for at least 40 years. I've walked the place. I've got pictures going back at least 35 years of everything. So, I have sort of one question I have here. I've heard what appears to be a statement that says the contractor is the Historic Preservation Commission, and the Historic Preservation Commission just got it wrong, and they don't really need to be listened to. So I'm trying to figure that one out. Is our Historic Preservation Commission really loaded with a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing? Is that what we're going to say here? Okay, if that's the case, then why do we need a Historic Preservation Commission? I think we probably would need one. We need to hear from both sides. We need to hear from both the people from the Historic Preservation Commission and from people here who want to keep property and keep their costs down to a minimum. I think it's a balancing act. You probably know that already, obviously. Okay, I've been back there most of my adult life, walking back in that area for literally 40 years. Okay, I understand that the slate roofs are different than synthetic slate roofs. I don't know how the synthetic slate will weather, will go over time, how it will react to UV, what its replacement cycle is, how it handles weathering conditions, how it handles physical wind conditions relative to slate, because slate's heavier than the synthetic slate, as far as I understand it. Slate cracks. We have a slate roof house on our street, by the way, and it's still there. You know the one. And so we need to have some balance here between what your people in the Historic Preservation Commission and why they came up with the finding they did, and balance that against what the people here want to keep their costs low. I understand people want to stay there. I understand there's attachments to that place from these people, but it's a balance. But we're right here to serve the community, which is more than just 400 mil. It's the entire town of Amherst. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Okay, thank you.
Just a couple quick cleanup items. There were some residents of St. Mary's that were uncomfortable speaking in public, so we've dropped off roughly 15 letters from residents of St. Mary's that we asked to be read into the record. I don't know what the formal procedure is. My attorneys probably know what that is.
They'll be recorded as part of the public hearing.
Okay. Great. And I would just echo the comments of many of the audience members. St. Mary's is a special place, and we've been involved in that building since 2002. Many of the members of the audience have been involved much longer. When my mother died at the age of 60 in January 2025, I went there to go write the eulogy because of what a special place it is. I have very fond memories of what we've done in the building. Again, it's something that I would encourage you to vote yes on, and vote yes sooner rather than later. And again, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Sure.
I am Patricia Burmaster, and I have been a resident at St. Mary's since December 2009. So really, a lot of people don't even want to walk around the building because they're afraid of these tiles. They're all over the place. And my apartment is adjacent to one of the courtyards that we cannot go out to because there were so many slates out there. But it's a safety issue too. And I mean, the weather conditions, rain coming, and I mean, I'm sure that has a lot to do with them loosening up and coming off the roof. But I think it's important to think about that also, and the leaks inside the building, I mean, there are quite a few. Anyway, thank you very much, and I'm definitely in favor of the synthetic tiles.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dennis Hoban. I'm a masonry contractor. I've been a contractor for about 40 years. Very familiar with slate roofs, and I am familiar with this product as well. I've never installed it, but I've seen it. It's a great product. Slate roofs are incredibly difficult to work on because they're constantly, the roofs are leaking. You got to take them apart and replace slate on them. I work on them quite a bit to rebuild chimneys and so on and so forth. This product is a great product. This should actually be a no-brainer. I don't know why we're even here, quite frankly. but you should let these people put this roof on and be done with it. But Brian, is your wife the head of the historical, Kate Waterman? Is she on that board?
She's on the board, not the head of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else?
I'd like to add comments.
Sure.
Thank you. So we're here today because of the denial by the HPC, which was a difference in opinion on how you interpret the brief number 16. This is very common in many, as a lawyer myself, in many legal briefs and how the law gets interpreted and how it should be applied. The HPC is the Historic Preservation Commission, of which I am a liaison and attended that April meeting, is filled with incredibly knowledgeable people. I commend their efforts and the amount of time that they spent going over this. It seems that there is a disagreement here. In that meeting, I mentioned one of the 8 criteria under that brief 16 was the difficulty in securing both labor and materials to put on a slate roof. It is not frequently done in the roofing community as much to put on a full slate roof, and so that labor is difficult to come by. I believe, Mr. Brown, you had mentioned that securing that type was one of the considerations. If I understand correctly, the argument being made today is that when we're meeting one of or several of those 8 criteria, we can then look at other things for using the synthetic. The HPC had a different interpretation of how that standard should be applied. And so when we're talking to educated and intelligent people, differences are allowed to happen, but that's why we're here today, and it's important that we take into full account. So another one of the considerations in that brief was also whether the synthetic material was something that was, I can't think of the exact word, but like critical to the historic nature of the building, and as has been mentioned here, the distance between ground to the roof was discussed frequently in that meeting, and it is not as visible as perhaps other areas. I know, Mr. Howard, you had asked about the sustainability of this roof, as was mentioned here. The Theodore Roosevelt inaugural site is about 10 miles from here. This has a slate synthetic roof material that was approved by the Federal Register, so I think it's important that we understand that very educated and well-meaning people can disagree on an interpretation of a standard here, and that's why we come and have these appeals, and that's why we have this portion for going forward. So I thank you for your presentation today. I thank the HPC members for their very in-depth and well-meaning and educated conversation and coming to their own decision. So thank you.
Any other further comments or questions from the board at the moment? So this is the first public meeting or public hearing that we've held on an early meeting. I think we thought this would afford some people a different opportunity to participate, especially if they chose or decided it'd be easier to come during the day than get out in the evening. But to that end, we are still in the first set of the first meeting of a public hearing. And I think it'd be appropriate to, as this board's typically done, hold the decision to the second meeting. And in this circumstance, because we're 3 o'clock meeting this afternoon, I think it'd be appropriate to hold the public hearing open. That would give St. Mary's residents more opportunities to submit letters that would be part of the public record. Those are meaningful emails and letters and correspondence. I don't have any issues with that. A motion to hold the public hearing open and set a decision date for July 22nd.
Second.
22nd? Did I get that right? Yeah. Okay. There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Now we need to do the
There's a
proclamation.
proclamation this evening. We're going to read that and then move on to public expression.
Give it a second.
Yep. Give everybody a second to get out.
Yeah. After this, I need to step out and take some meds. I didn't think we.
Oh, it'll be recorded in a minute.
It'll be part of the minutes.
It goes up on the website. It goes on our website. Thank you.
Where did he say? Oh, okay, the B. I was wondering who he was, because he looked sort of,
When you walk up with a bag and like a computer, I was like,
well, he can, I don't mean it in a negative way. You can give it to us.
you do the self-defense, right? You teach self-defense. Yeah, I'm Angela Marino. I know. I love your self-defense. You're tons of positive reviews.
Okay, can you try and move this along?
Okay, we're gonna move on. Yep, we have a proclamation to present or to read into the minutes, so we're gonna do that at this time.
No. She did a great job.
Mary Diana, can you come up, please?
It's okay.
Yes, we could have.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. This month is designated as Parks and Recreation Month, and I have a proclamation. Whereas parks and recreation are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the town of Amherst, and whereas parks and recreation promote health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks, and whereas parks and recreation promote time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas parks and recreation encourage physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designated to promote active lifestyles. And whereas parks and recreation programming and education activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development, and whereas parks and recreation increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas parks and recreation are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community. And whereas parks and recreation are essential and adaptable infrastructure that makes our communities resilient in the face of natural disasters and climate change, and whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors, and whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the town of Amherst recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, now therefore be it resolved that the Amherst Town Board declares July 2024 Parks and Recreation Month in the town of Amherst, New York.
Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda is an opportunity for public participation. I'm going to first ask our attorney to please read the rules for public participation.
Thank you. There will be 2 opportunities for public expression today. I'm just here to review with you the town board's rules of order with regard to decorum and public expression. First, with regard to decorum, order and decorum must be maintained throughout the meeting. Pursuant to the rules of order, speakers shall address the board as a whole and refrain from partisan political commentary, personal, impertinent, slanderous, or profane remarks, catcalls, noisemakers, or other outbursts that disrupt the order of the meeting. Any person who makes such remarks or otherwise disrupts the meeting with loud outbursts, shouting, threats, or other disruptive behavior shall, at the discretion of the supervisor or after a motion and a majority approval of the board, be ruled out of order. As I said, there's 2 opportunities for you to speak to the board with regard to your comments on topics not covered within the public hearings that were scheduled for today. Per the rules of order, the purpose of public expression is to allow the opportunity for the public to formally address the board on any matter involving the town of Amherst. This is not a question and answer session, nor is it intended to be a conversation with the board. Rather, this is an opportunity for the public to express their opinion on issues that the board will cover during that meeting or bring to attention to an issue involving the town of Amherst. Speakers may comment for up to 3 minutes. The town clerk will ring the bell once you have 30 seconds remaining and twice when your time is finished. When your time is finished, please return to your seat. There's a sign-up sheet at the podium for you to indicate your interest in speaking. Once those that have signed up are finished, the supervisor will ask if there are any additional speakers who would like to make a comment. A reminder that decorum must be maintained. All remarks shall be addressed to the board as a whole and not to any single member thereof, and in the event that a speaker's inquiry is urgent or their comment is inaccurate, the supervisor or a town board member may respond for 1 minute after closing public expression. Thank you for your adherence to these rules of order.
Okay, with that, I'm going to motion to open public expression. Second. All in favor? Aye. All right, Tom Weisbeck, you're up first.
Welcome back, Jackie. We missed you. Thank you. Okay, Tom Weisbeck, Drawbridge Court. Well, let's see. I got a few things. You stated the fact that the last meeting that you could have, you could adjust the streetlights. Well, I'm wondering if you can turn my streetlight down. I look out of my window, it's so bright. I mean, illumination, you have it in the town code, is 0.5 foot candles. Can someone at least take a look at it? See what it is, what it's producing right now?
When the project is complete, we plan to dim all the lights in the town except for the major roadways. If you have a concern now, please shoot me an email with the poll number.
49, Drawbridge Court.
Okay, someone needs to write it down for me.
I'll talk to you after. How's that, about that?
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll
Okay.
follow up. We have been following up on any concerns that have been directed to us.
Okay, thank you. Also, I wanted to ask you about the street lighting issue with I brought it up probably about a month ago about the lawsuit. If you could possibly extend the courtesy of telling us where it's at. You know, it should be a public interest in seeing what's possibly going to cost the town.
I don't know.
So,
It's
I mean,
weird.
I don't know if you guys are hired an outside counsel, I think I asked before, or an inside house, I don't know. So, okay, but, do you want to answer?
I will answer that question among some others at the end.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just asking you, it's a lawsuit, that's gonna affect the taxes in the town of Amherst. Let's see. What's going on with Dick's, the store over at the Boulevard Mall? Dick's store? Are you guys gonna, are they moving it? Are you giving them a tax incentive to move or whatever? Where is it going? I mean, the mall's gonna be, right, demolished at one point. So Dick's is going, J.C. Penney's, Macy's, where are they going? So that's, but my question is, Dick's, where are they going? Costco, they're at 200, I think their profit was $237 million last year. So how much, I don't know if you gave them any incentives to come here? Did you? Did Amherst ideate? Did they do that?
No, but I'll answer all these questions
Okay.
at the end.
Okay. So let's see. Now, I just had one more question. You have, and your, what is it called? Let's see. The amended 2429 capital improvement projects. One of the things you had in there was Young's Road Extension, Casey to French Road. What's your plan on that?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for my time.
Okay. Jane Cox.
Jane Cox, Harlem Road. I wanted to ask about Resolution 2024-582 about the electronic records standard regarding the town of Amherst records that are kept. And basically what it says is most of the records that are generated by the town of Amherst are already in digital format or have been digitized. And then later in the resolution, it says copies of records in other formats, including paper, shall be deemed convenience copies and disposed of when no longer needed for reference or other administrative purposes. What I don't get from this resolution is any indication as to who exactly will decide what paper copies are going to be kept by the town and how long and when can they be disposed of. Is it going to be department heads? Is it going to be the town clerk's office? Or who's going to be in charge of this? Because there's no indication on this resolution as to who's going to determine which records and where they're going to be kept. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Don Smith.
Don Smith, North Lawn. Good evening, town board members. On Jane's point there, the town clerk is the official records depository and responsible for all records whatsoever. So they all the requirements, the legal requirements, fall in the town clerk's office. As far as I understand it, that committee is headed up by members that the town clerk is dealing with at this point. The only issue I have is when Royal Parkway came up and the Monroe County versus the City of Rochester was invoked to make the town board lead agency over the town board, planning board and the zoning board of appeals. Effectively, we're reducing all aspects of review by either of those boards and all public hearings for the public to be provided. I was a bit concerned and maybe a little bit suspicious. So I looked on the website for the state of New York, and the New York State Higher Education Capital Matching Grant Program. Nobody ever told me it was a matching grant. The $2.384 million, if you multiply, the requirement for that program is a 3-to-1 match. So that if you multiply by 2.384 million, it comes out to about 7.1 million. I have here the final book from the HCAP program. It's 34 pages. I just got it yesterday and I'm reading through it. Okay, so it says what the matching requirements are. It says it's matching independent colleges input. So that means Damon University has to come up with a $7.1 million and then they get the match. That doesn't make any sense. The town is bonding that at $7.1 million, so they can't match the town's money. So how is Damon coming up with the $7.1 million? Are they coming up with the $1.1 million? There's the entire application and all the matching requirements under Section 4 here is here. I can read right through them. And I've read right through them, and they don't make any sense because it doesn't say anything about local municipalities being able to substitute for that. It doesn't say that in the document. I've read through the law on that, and it doesn't say that either. So how are they coming up with the matching money? Is the town of Amherst giving that money to the Damon University as a grant? I don't know. How are they coming up with it? I would like to have a definitive answer on who owns that $7.1 million, whose money it is now, and whose money it will be when the project is complete. That's what I find. And I want to read through this and come back with a lot more detail on this thing. Because right now, as far as I understand, round 4 of that project, or the project of round 4, which this is from, is terminated 1 September 2024. Now, if the project has been started by 2024, you are no longer allowed in future rounds to use a project which has already been started as a matching grant. You can't do that. It's in the document. So you cannot reapply again for that $2,284 million if it's there. I also notice another thing that's there is that Damon University very often, not very often, has been in this program since for quite a few years and has withdrawn a lot of projects, which means when you withdraw a project right now, the current process is the money goes into the pool and it can be reapplied for in future rounds. But when you withdraw, you don't get any money from that. And it looks like if they withdraw, the money won't be coming to them. So as far as I'm concerned, if they withdraw, that means we're out some money. We're out $2.384 million if Damon University withdraws. So they, as far as I prefer them not to withdraw that project from the request. It says it's in process and no money has been granted to them and they haven't drawn on that. There's an entire process in here on how they have to make out forms to withdraw money from their account to get their money back for the project in here. So they have to, it's a two-step process. So I want to know where we are. I want to know who owns the money and where it's going to be going. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any further?
Bob Dirtle, 92 Chateau Terrace. Is it possible to get the school zone sign swapped at the corner of Chateau and Main? The first sign, which has the speed limit, is right after the sidewalk. And then further down, there's just a plain school zone sign. When you're turning onto Chateau from Main Street from either direction, you're focused on traffic that's on Chateau, pedestrians that are crossing. Nobody's going to see the sign unless you're coming straight across Main from Bernhardt. So if you could get those swaps so people can actually see the 20-mile-an-hour zone sign as they're going down the street, because where it is now, I guarantee 90% of the people aren't going to notice what it is. Now, I'll show you a picture. I put a new router in, I couldn't print out my photos, so.
Could you email me or email a picture to one of the board members or myself?
Sure. The other thing is we've got the school zone sign limit now, routinely ignored. I mean, I can sit in my driveway and watch people going up Chateau towards Bornhava and maybe 20% hit their brakes when they hit the school zone sign. The rest just keep on going, and coming down the street, it's even worse. You know, they're going 30, 40, maybe even 50 miles an hour at times. You know, we could probably use another traffic study there. I know we had one before during COVID. It's either that or get some kind of police enforcement on this. The stop signs, right, when you leave Park School, there's a stop sign leaving, there's one going into it, and there's another one on Chateau North. last summer, I sat there and recorded it. I've got actual video of maybe 85 out of 100 cars not stopping for any of the stop signs. I mean, there should be a school zone sign down by Park School also. Speed limit, stop signs, everything. We need traffic enforcement on this. I mean, this is an ongoing problem. I've been coming for 2 years. We've been talking and complaining about this. People from Park School do not obey traffic laws. This is a minimal use street. There's a no outlet. With all the traffic, you had traffic backed up all the way down the Chateau South, probably beyond it at one point. I think it was yesterday. It's posted online. It's not supposed to be used as an exit. We have paperwork showing that this was supposed to be a limited use only exit and entrance for Park School. They have turned it into a major thoroughfare. This street cannot handle that kind of traffic. Somebody's going to get killed. Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else? Oh, sorry, Matt. I didn't see your name on that sheet. Yeah,
I can give you the sheet while I'm here. There's only 2 people on it. I came late. No.
Matt Plunkett, North Hill Drive. With respect to Resolution 2024-589 that's on the consent agenda for today, I had a couple of concerns about it. I read it through and I looked at the list of potential contractors that are named on it. And I was just wondering how that list was arrived at and if it's exhaustive or were some people added and some people excluded, and if so, were there any grounds for doing that? Just reading from the very last paragraph on the first page, or on my first page, the town is locking in consultant rates. Presumably, these rates are agreed upon with all the various vendors on the list. If that's the case, some people might call that price fixing. And if the rates aren't agreed upon and are being imposed by the town, what's to stop a consultant from slow rolling a project to run hours in order to make up for the money they're not making on their normal charges? It says the consultant and town departments will jointly develop the scope of the project. And that's an invitation to disaggregate large projects into small projects that should otherwise go out for an RFP, competitive bidding, or best value bidding. By disaggregating them and turning them into smaller and smaller projects, it's very easy to avoid the whole requirement of competitive bidding. It says, it also goes on to say that it will minimize miscommunications about scope and improve owner engineering understanding of projects and potential project upfront pitfalls in the process. The process is more efficient as less time is used to develop and review individual RFPs. This will move the town away from low-cost engineering, which often costs the town additional money. It's odd that low-cost engineering would cost the town additional money, but I suppose it could. Due to omissions and errors that are expensive to fix during construction. And I understand that, but simply by sitting down and developing the scope of the project, it's not going to guarantee errors and omissions. That kind of stuff happens all the time, no matter how careful you are, and that's almost unavoidable. I just worry when I see these types of things that it looks very much as if there's something going on here that's meant to avoid competitive bidding process, and I don't think that's a good thing for the town or the taxpayers.
Anybody else? I'm going to motion to close public expression. I'm sorry. Dave, please come up. Sorry.
I was on the late list.
Oh, you're fine.
Hi, Dave Howard, 194 Roycroft Boulevard. I'm going to go all over the place here. I want to go back to the musical fair bond. And musical fairs supposedly had their own money in the process that they were going to pay a portion of it. What I found out is that Erie County and New York State were issuing them grants, and that was musical fair's money that they were putting into the project. So not only was Amherst paying for the entire building, Amherst residents were also paying Erie County's portion, and a portion of Amherst residents were also paying a portion of New York State. So Amherst residents were paying all three portions of what this building was going to cost, and just crazy for Mr. Kramer to say that he's got people giving him money, and it's actually state. He's got no money in the game. It's all everybody else's money. And what I'm seeing now in this Damon project at the Royal Park is the same thing. I mean, they're getting a grant from New York State, and supposedly, again, I'm going to go with what was said earlier, it's a 3-for-1. Damon's supposed to come up with to get the New York State grant, the person asking for it has to pay three portions to New York State's one. Where is there anywhere that we can see that Damon is actually paying their three portions of it, or is Amherst paying the three portions for that grant? I don't know what the grant's for, how much money. I mean, somebody said 2 million, whatever. So it'd be 3 times that Damon's supposed to be coming up with. So I'm just looking at on the town website, the Royal Park Sports Complex, and it's being touted for the residents, but everything I see in this and the lease agreement, it's the sports complex itself is Damon's. It's not the town residents. In fact, if I wanted to go use that sports complex, I need to call the town of Amherst somewhere to get approval to be able to go on it. Or I'm not even allowed. Like, I know my kids, when they were growing up, they said, hey, we're going to go to the turf, which the turf was the high school, and they went and played there. But from what I'm reading, the kids in Royal Park, Royal area, or anywhere in Amherst can't go there and just play at the sports complex. They got to call first, and hopefully they're going to be allowed to get on when Damon isn't using it. Damon also gets the rights to put signage up and to sell advertisement. And I got like 1,000 other things, but we'll have to wait, I guess. Thanks.
Thanks.
I didn't sign in. Shelley Strauss. I just have a question of possibility, or however this works. In Harlem, Kensington, where the traffic circle is, there's the one that's in the Amherst side, okay? When we started the association, we agreed to be responsible for the circles, to keep them up and make them look nice in the beginning. And then when we disbanded, and if and when we did, which we did several years ago, okay, the town agreed to make sure that they stayed that way. All right, so a lot of people, because of me being there at Bing's, are complaining that it's not getting done and it looks horrible. It does look horrible, but so does Cheektowaga, okay? And we have the businesses there on the corners are keeping their properties up beautifully. And so when everyone comes in and they see it's Amherst, it's a reflection of us. I didn't call Steve because I wanted to go to you first with a thought. Years ago, what we did was there was the nursery down by, what is it, Pine Ridge. And they would plant them. Like up here, I think at the village, you would use the Mischlers or somebody, right? Mm-hmm. Is there a way that the town can figure that out, how we can have that done? Because then I have no problem asking Cheektowaga town to do the same thing at theirs. If I can at least say Amherst is gonna do it. It doesn't have to be fancy, but just to make sure. And I don't wanna put it on highway, because they don't, who knows if they have enough, but they've been doing it. But they just haven't done it recently. So just so you know, it just, if one more, and Jackie, we live over there, and they all go, you live over here, don't you care about it? I go, yeah, I do, but I don't have time to go do that right now. So that's my question. Can someone let me know if there's something I should do to help?
Sure, thanks.
After hearing Julie Van Lente, Parkwood Drive, Snyder. After hearing Mr. Howard speak about the musical fair conundrum with 3 of our tax entities funding things for them, just a quick comment and my tiny little brain noticing. My mother, who does not live in the town of Amherst, has had season tickets to musical fair for decades. Given we now know that they knew their lease was not going to be renewed as early as 2018, my mother told me the only fundraising she knew of that they were doing for the new theater was passing the hat at the performances. I remember big fundraising projects for Shays and lots of other places. Could this be that maybe Mr. Kramer was just assuming that between the 3 entities, he wasn't necessarily going to have to worry about anything and didn't need to put any effort into actually raising funds from patrons and lovers of the arts, and just assuming our tax dollars would pay for it? Just a thought. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Dennis Hoban, 216 California Drive. I didn't come up here to talk about all the terrible things, because I only have 3 minutes. But it does seem like everything that this board touches sort of turns to, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, I think you have it in your minds. But I would like to talk tonight about the highway department. I think I mentioned a few things the last time I was at a meeting. The roofs are leaking. Since you took office, Brian, the roofs leak. I think that's really bad for morale when you go into work and it's raining and you go inside the building and the roofs are leaking, and it's year after year after year after year, the roofs are leaking. Did anyone look into that? I don't think so. Okay, there's equipment down there that probably should have been replaced 5 years ago. There's a gentleman working down there that was fishing recently while he was working. I think that's kind of bad. That doesn't speak too well for the leadership we have at the highway department. You might want to look into that. The highway department is a mess. I think you should get this Steve Floss down here some night, and maybe some other department heads, and we can ask these people some questions, Where's our money going? And it's not just the money, it's a safety issue. When the streets don't get plowed, and ambulances and police cars and fire department vehicles can't get through the snow, like a couple winters ago when we had that really terrible storm, and somebody sent everybody home early because they didn't want to pay the overtime. Remember that, Brian? So, this is a safety issue. You should have Steve Floss down here, and we can ask him. I have his phone number if you need it, Brian. So I think you need to address some of these problems. The water leaking, the vehicles that need to be replaced. Forget about buying an F-350 for the Westwood Country Club. I think you need to replace some of the equipment at the highway department. I think the guy that's in charge of the mechanics, it's rumored that he watches movies all day long. I think that's probably wrong too. Maybe you should look into that too. When I ask questions of people, they tell me he doesn't. The Steve Floss doesn't even show up for work. So that's a problem. What do you think?
I'm going to answer questions at the end, like I always do.
I'll stay till the end.
Good.
So, how much time have I got left? 10 seconds? 3 seconds? Well, God bless you.
Thanks, Dennis.
Hi, good afternoon. Karen Howard, 194 Roycroft in Snyder. I just have 2 questions. One is regarding Resolution 2024-580. That's the Town Hall and 30 South Cayuga renovations. I just wondered if you could just briefly summarize what the nature of those renovations are and what 30 South Cayuga building is used for. I didn't see it in the materials. And I noticed that we've got a $100,000 bond resolution, so we'll be paying for it for 15 years plus interest. So I was kind of curious as to what it was. And my second question is, going back a whole bunch of meetings ago, we talked about the 11.4% tax increase. Brian, I believe you mentioned that, throughout the course of the year, you guys would be looking at opportunities for cost savings relative to the budget. And I'm just wondering how that's going, if you've identified opportunities to reduce costs and, help drive savings.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? Gonna motion to close public expression.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, I'm gonna answer all the rest of the questions at the end, but there were 3 questions regarding Sure. I'm gonna answer the rest of the questions at the end, but we did have 3 questions regarding resolutions, so prior to us voting, I think I'll address those 3 items. The first, I'm going backwards in order, regarding 30 South Cayuga and Town Hall. So, the town obtained 30 South Cayuga. If you're familiar with some of the departments inside this building's crowded, overcrowded, and ADA compliant. The building is ADA compliant, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense the way that the building's organized. So with an elevator on the far end near the rear door, we have a set of steps on the front end, and a lot of times people will try to deal with those steps prior to realizing that there's an elevator on the back door. The clerk's office is in the middle of the building. The assessor's office at the far end of the building. Those are often the most visited spaces, along with the building department, by residents. I always find it terrible when residents who are here to pick up a timed handicap permit because they had some surgery or something done have to get up an elevator and all the way around to the clerk's office. So over the next few years, our plan is to continue to migrate some offices into 30 South Cayuga, mostly those that don't have day-to-day resident interaction, while expanding things like the building department so that there's suitable office space for the people who work there, and eventually shifting the clerk's and the assessor's office closer to the elevator. But we also have to maintain the front of the building. Those steps are treacherous. The front door steps right down off of a step, and a lot of people miss it leaving the building. And the slate and some of the porch aren't really good landing spaces. They get very slick. So we're going to do some work to expand the first step so that you don't walk out of the door down a step and then start to deal with the front set of stairs. The cupola needs some work on the front of the building. There's some additional, some of the woodwork on the very front on the columns needs some work. And then, like I said, our goal is to continue this idea of migration. We also, aside from the one conference room near the supervisor and council offices, have not had conference spaces. So years ago, we removed the front set of fixed seating in this space so that we could use it as a large conference room. The chairs are mobile. We can bring in tables, but we want additional conference space so that people coming in can meet with somebody and do so not within an office, but do so right in an appropriate conference space. The second question I had to do with the Resolution 589. Matt asked about, so that is a quals plus cost RFP. What we've seen over time is that we do better with cost when we can control escalation and professional services in year one of a 3-year contract rather than wait an RFP individual projects out later in the contract. Those are scored by the engineering department, the finance office, and the sewer department. And again, it is cost plus qualifications. And there is an RFP process. Later on is when task orders get issued. But but that is scored with cost in mind up front. And the third question was Jane's regarding paper copies and who regulates that. So New York State Archives regulates what municipalities have to keep in paper format versus what we can migrate to digital format. There are some items that have to be kept for the life of the document or for longer periods or longer duration. Those in this town, well, and all, our town clerk is also the maintainer of vital records. So our town clerk's office is generally the group that deals with that, although they certainly get input from IT regarding the storage of digital information. So that said, we have a number of resolutions this evening. I'm going to start going through those. The first of which is by Deputy Supervisor Lavin, 577 fire prevention ad in the Amherst B. Do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, make a motion for resolution 2024-577.
There's a motion. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, Councilman Zucala, you've got resolution 578, Amherst Traffic Safety Board appointment.
Yes, I do motion to fill a slot that is open on the Amherst Traffic Safety Board. It's resolution 2024-578. Cindy Selden has approached me. She's interested in serving. I think she'll be a valuable member of the board, and I'm asking that we approve her appointment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 579 is an order calling for a public hearing on a lighting district extension for miscellaneous parcels. As we were digitizing our lighting maps, what became obvious was there were parcels that were in the lighting district that some of which had lights in front of them, which were not previously recorded as part of the lighting district. We need to modify the lighting district to include those properties. So I'll motion to call for a public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 580 is Town Hall and 30 South Cayuga renovations, bond resolution in the amount of $100,000, which I discussed earlier. I'll make a motion first to adopt the resolution.
Second.
And on the second, I would ask our town clerk for a voice vote, please.
Supervisor Copa?
Yes.
Deputy Supervisor Lavin?
Yes.
Councilmember Zucala?
Yes.
And Councilmember Marinucci?
Yes.
Resolution 581 is the bus shelter agreement for Amherst Gateway Park, CRS 4913. Those are being provided by the NFTA. A motion to adopt the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 582 is the electronics record standards, which I mentioned earlier. A motion to adopt resolution 582 is presented to us. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 583 is an amusement license for Evans Bank. A motion to adopt that amusement license or to grant the amusement license.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 584 is the amusement license for Andale Cantina. I'll motion to approve that amusement license.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 585 is amusement license for the Arc of Erie County. I'll motion to adopt that amusement license.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 586 are budget transfers and amendments. I'll motion to adopt those as they appeared.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 587 is an award of bid, OGS mini bid 2024027 for one Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend CRS 4898. I'll motion to adopt that resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 588 is an installation of street lighting Miller's Crossing Phase 1 and 2, Town of Amherst, job number 2018.043. A motion to adopt that resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 589 is the Town of Amherst Engineering Department 3-year term agreements, Town of Amherst project number 2024.10.014, easy for me to say. I'll motion to adopt the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 590 is the installation of street lighting for Harding Road subdivision, Town of Amherst, job number 2005.101/SUB 2022-01. I'll motion to adopt that resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 591 is a change order number 1 and final quantity adjustment for Highway Department Fuel System Repair Project number 2022.007 CRS 4906. A motion to adopt that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 592 is an award of bid for North Bailey Sanitary Sewer Extension 2024 to 2029 CIP Project S4, Town of Amherst, project number 2022.026. A motion to adopt that resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 593 is the labor for youth and rec. A motion to adopt the appointment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 594 is Principal Engineer Assistant Engineering for Plant Number 16. A motion to adopt the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 595 is the Principal Clerk Typist for Youth and Recreation. A motion the appointment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 596 is the File Clerk for Building Maintenance Facilities Department. Motion the appointment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 597 is Code Enforcement Officer for the Building Department. A motion that appointment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 598 is Program Leader for Youth and Senior Services. A motion to adopt the appointment, the program leader.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 599 is the General Crew Chief for Building Maintenance Facilities Department. A motion to grant the appointment as it appears.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 600 is extended sick leave of absence without pay for Highway Department. A motion to grant that sick leave of absence without pay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 601 is an Assistant Code Enforcement Officer for the Building Department. A motion the appointment as it appeared.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 602 is an Assistant Code Enforcement Officer for the Building Department. A motion the appointment as it appears.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 603 is training and travel request for NCFI Introduction to Phone Repair Course. A motion the resolution as it appears.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 604 is training and travel request, or NCFI Vehicle Forensics Course. I'll motion to adopt the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 605 is the purchase of a child ID system and designation of sole source vendor, Easy Child ID, CRS 4941. A motion to adopt the purchase.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution
Resolution 606 is change order number 1 for Paragon Environmental Construction Incorporated, Town of Amherst, project number 2016.002D. A motion to adopt the change order.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 607 is contract extension for Joe Johnson Equipment high-pressure sewer cleaning hose, CRS number 4897. A motion to adopt that extension.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 608 is a travel request required for operator training courses. A motion to adopt that resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 609 is the WPCF deionized water system service contract with Evaqua Water Technologies, CRS 4896. A motion to adopt the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 610 is a certificate of municipal use or state use for NOCO Energy Corporation, CRS 4895. A motion to adopt the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 611 is the emergency purchases payment authorization for Ranch Cryogenics Incorporated. I'll motion to adopt that emergency purchase.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Communication 56 is a request for a public hearing for 3880, 3910 East Robinson Road rezoning. I'll motion to grant the request for public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Communication 57 is Congregation Brith Hadasha for fee waiver. I would recommend we grant the fee waiver. Any reason, or I'll make a motion to adopt to grant the fee waiver.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Communication 58 is Historic Preservation Commission permission for sign placement and fee waiver. I would make a motion to grant the permission for sign placement and fee waiver.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a public improvement, 612, public improvement permit number 3118 for streetlights at Miller's Crossing subdivision, Phase 1 and Phase 2, 2018.043/SUB 2018-02. A motion to adopt or to accept the public improvement permit at this time.
Second.
All in favor? We have a second round of public expression. A motion to open that at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Don Smith, North Long. I noticed that in the answers you gave none to my question, so I'm going to sort of answer it for you if I can. On the RGA for the application, it states Section 4 matching requirements. Therefore, for every HCAP grant dollar received, the college must contribute at least $3 of non-state matching fund towards the HCAP project matching funds. So I have to conclude somehow the college is, the money that came from the town is seen by the state as coming from the Damon University in a way that satisfies HCAP. I don't know how you do that. I want to find out how you do that. I want to know the legal reason and mechanism on the way that works so that I understand where the money that I pay as a town taxpayer is being used in my name to further the goals of an organization that's going to get $2.384 million back as matching from the HCAP project. So I cannot find, and I'm just beginning to look into this, I cannot find anything that states, that says Damon University gave them $7.1 million. That doesn't happen. So something's not right. I got to find that out. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Don. Anybody else? I am going to answer all the rest of the questions at the end. I just wanted to answer the ones with the...
Dave Howard, 194 Raycroft Boulevard. I'm just going to read, this is from, sorry. This is from, what is this from? Bonds Basics for Town, Villages, and Cities in New York State. Loan Credit Prohibition. Article 8, Section 1 of the Constitution provides that no county, city, town, village, or school district shall give or loan any money or property to or in aid of any individual or private corporation, association, or private undertaking, nor shall any such local government unit give or loan its credit to or in aid of any of the foregoing or any public corporation. Therefore, the limited expectations of the general rule that local government units cannot give or loan money, property, or credit to any other for any other than governmental purposes. So it's basically saying we cannot give money or land to private corporations or entities for their use. And it seems that's what we're doing for Damon University, is giving them land and buildings and property and our money through the bonds you're taking out. I don't see how this is even legal. Anyways, I'll just go on to a couple other little things. The golf bridge on the left side of hole 15 is right now shut down because the decking is all rotted. I know somebody's went out to look or was told about it, but it's been that way for about 3 weeks now. The debt limit, I was concerned that because we've doubled our debt limit in the last 6 years, over doubled it from the previous 199 years. I wanted to see what our debt limit is, so I did look, and there is another publication basically saying that 7%, even though we are available to use 9%, because we have over 125,000 residents, we basically can take out $1,202,000,000 in debt. So everybody, we have a lot of room to go yet. So hopefully we'll never get that high. So that's all I basically have. But I really think this stuff with musical fair that we thankfully, hopefully shut down. But what's going on with this Royal Park is illegal. It really is not right.
Okay. Anybody else?
Tom Weisbeck, Drawbridge Court. Excuse me. I had a question on, you have some street lighting issues on here in this, I'm sorry, let me get my thoughts here. Let me get this up here. You're having a public meeting about, hearing about this, some more streetlights. I must have missed it. Where there's streetlights all over. There was 551. That was on the website here. Can you tell me what's going on there about that, please? Is it going to affect our taxes? I'm around a couple of those streets. I'm hoping that I can get their street lighting tax. It's a little more. There's a lot more than what a lot less than I'm paying. So, but if I get my street lighting different, I don't know, it might cost a little more money. But I really want to find out about what's going on with this one at Sheridan Mills. What's the status of that restaurant? Is it moving on forward?
I don't know, but
I mean, there was an issue with I brought it up, the issues about the street lighting, and the lighting issue, and inside where you guys approved it was way past the foot candles that was amended, you know? So I just was wondering if there was any change of that, or are you gonna just put the street lights up in this building area? I mean, we don't need all these street lights. Sometimes we're using all this energy. We don't need to do that. We're wasting our money there. So just let me know what's going on there, because that's a very busy corner. People need to be safe. I understand that with the streetlights, but stepping out of our codes, we should stay with the codes. That's why we have them.
Motion to close public expression.
Second.
All in favor? All right, I'll go through a couple of answers. I'm going to start, I'll try to get them in as much order as I can. Starting with the Dick's store. Dick's has a lease at the mall site right now. They're currently open and operational. Dick's has decided they want to build a 2-story store with outdoor space. They applied for site plan approval. That was granted by the planning board, and they're building that next to the new Costco. Regarding Macy's, Macy's would like to stay in the Boulevard Mall site longer term. That is something that I would think the development community will be open to, as is Penny's, and as the town is not anticipate nor does it desire to be the future developer of the site. We are going to let the development community and those stores work out how and when and how and where they stay on that site. Ultimately, Costco nor any other retail is eligible to receive tax incentives. They are, however, paying us mitigation values for road repairs or road changes that have to be made. And so they will be paying us for some of the changes that are upcoming in that area. Regarding the CIP for Young's Road extension, so predating this board, predating me, the Young's Road extension has always been in the comprehensive plan, and therefore there's always been a placeholder within a CIP for a future Young's Road extension. I can't speak for the board, I'll speak for myself as saying I don't believe that that's something that is going to be, that's going to happen in my time in office. I don't have any, I won't, again, speak for other people. That's not the intent to move forward with that, my intent. Regarding, you know, the grant, the capital match, we're building a town park. We're building turf that people can just walk on when it's not being used. However, if you're going to schedule a game, if you're going to actually use the facility, just like all of our other town facilities, when there's official league play, when there's something official, we do ask and do require those to be scheduled, because otherwise we have leagues that could book stuff overlapping. There's a lot of use for turf. There's a lot of use for tennis courts. There's a lot of use for all those things that we're building. Our goal was basically to build a town park and find somebody who could help us offset some of the capital costs. That's what Damon offered to do. And yes, they are going to have some use of the space, just like we have use of spaces by school groups all the time, by colleges. And regarding the school zone sign at Chateau, if you email me a picture of which one needs to be relocated, we can work on that. I agree there should be one by Park School. Personally, I think that there should be a gate. I've said that before. I know that that was not the opinion of our past highway superintendent or some of the residents over there. I don't understand the benefit to the community other than just to try to sneak back onto Harlem Road. It seems like it'd be more detriment to the community than benefit by not having that gated. That's something we could take up with our new highway superintendent. Ultimately, I'll ask the police to step up enforcement again at the stop signs, and I'm sure that they'll make sure that that gets done. Regarding street lights and new properties, I thought I answered that when I got to the resolution, but there are a number of properties, right, now that we own the street lights and have digitized their locations and have compared those to the tax map, there are a number of parcels that were either subdivided from other parcels, which is most likely the case in most circumstances, that did not end up in the lighting district. Those need to be added to the lighting district. They should be taxed as part of the lighting district. They have not been in the past.
I'm sorry, part of it is, digitizing, I went by some of the lights, they're not there, you got the wrong address there.
Okay.
That's why I'm asking.
There's streets that are in the lighting district. They have street lights. Those properties should be in the lighting district. So we're calling for a public hearing, and that gives people an opportunity to say, hey, I think you're wrong about our specific condition. Regarding highway department, I don't run the highway department. I've never had jurisdiction over the highway department. It's been run by independently elected highway superintendents. In the past, we have provided money, and there's been outstanding bonds that were never utilized for repairs on that building. We have in the past I have gotten our facilities department involved with some immediate repairs to that building that needed to be made, and we do have a CIP component in our current CIP that does provide money towards either massive repair or replacement of the facilities. Ultimately, the highway building, needs to be updated, needs upgrades, just like every other building in town. But you can't force that subject, and I think that is something that ultimately all we can do as a town board is provide the resource for highway equipment and highway facilities, and ultimately it's up to the highway superintendent's office to move forward with those projects. So that's what that's a fair enough request, and it's a fair enough request, and we will do that. I will now motion to adjourn the board meeting. Second. All in favor?